Hi there, everybody. Today we're going to look at lesson 6.1 on describing shapes. This is the first lesson in our geometry unit. We're going to go with a little bit of a pirate theme, so hopefully you enjoy that. But how do we describe shapes? Well, usually when we describe shapes, we want to, in math at least, we want to look at something called their attributes. And what are attributes? Well, the attributes we're going to look at might include things like the number of sides or the number of vertices in a shape. Vertices are those corners. We might look at the angle size and the types of angles that are used. We might look at the number of equal or unequal sides, so if they're the same length. And we might look at the number of parallel or perpendicular sides. And let's play a little bit of a game here. If we want to get used to these words, we have to use them. And we know that games work great for that. So let's do this. I'm going to choose one of these shapes. And I'm not going to tell you which one it is, because that would be less of a fun game. But I want you to try to guess which one it is as I tell you the clues. Okay, so let's try this out. I've got my shape in mind, and my first clue for you is my shape has four sides. This makes my shape a quadrilateral. And you can see that some of these shapes on here have way more than four sides. That means they are now eliminated. So you can cross those out, or in your mind, eliminate those from the list. My shape also has no right angles. And right angles are those square corners. You can see lots of square corners on this page. Here's one right here in B. Actually, B has a couple. If we look at shape E, it has many corners in here that are 90 degrees or right angles. There we have right there. So a number of these shapes have that attribute. Mine does not. My shape has one pair of equal sides. That means that of those four sides that we have, two of them are the same length. And finally, my shape has one pair of parallel sides. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But hopefully you had a chance to guess which one I was talking about. And if you were correct, you'd be looking at shape C. So let's look at the clues that I gave you and let's discuss these. So shape C, the first clue was my shape has four sides, and you can see them right there. Okay? We could rotate this in any direction, but those sides would remain the same, and we call these quadrilateral. Quad means four. Clue two was my shape has no right angles. And if you can see here, we don't have any angles that are those square corners. I've got angle DAB, and we name it that because A is at the vertex, but it goes from DA to AB. So that angle and ABC, those are larger than 90 degrees. We call those angles obtuse, and we discussed that earlier this year. We also would look at angle BCD and CDA. Those two angles are smaller than 90 degrees. Those are acute angles. Clue number three, my shape has one pair of equal sides. You can see that these two sides here, they're not going in the same direction, but they are the same length. And so in geometry, we're going to use these little hash marks to show that those sides are exactly the same length. They are equal. Now, these look like equal signs. You wouldn't always use two of them, though, right? Any line that was equal to those two would have those two little hash marks. But if the top and the bottom were equal, I could use one little hash mark or three little hash marks. I wouldn't want to make them the same. The only way you use the same number is if they are equal to each other. And then your final clue was my shape has one pair of parallel sides. And in geometry, we're going to use these little arrow marks to show that lines are parallel. And that's important too. And just like with the hash marks, you can see that I have the same number of them here. But if the top or if the sides over here were equal or parallel rather, then I couldn't use just one arrow because they're going in different directions. I'd have to use two arrows or three arrows. But you always